All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video, the latest on Brandon Aiyuk, the latest chapter from Brandon Aiyuk. We'll talk a little Brandon Aiyuk and the latest coming out about that. First, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week in both spots from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle. And this video is brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. Check them out in Pacific Grove, California. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove along the Monterey Peninsula. Call Anthony Catania at 831-521-5264. All right. Well, the 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk reportedly had a good meeting as the two sides are still at a standstill in contract negotiations. Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network reported that both sides said things that needed to be said, and there are no plans for a trade at this time. Now, according to Pelissero of the NFL Network, Aiyuk's meeting with the 49ers was a good meeting. Both sides said things that they wanted to get off their chest. Aiyuk has not demanded a trade. Here's the report from Pelissero. He says, Aiyuk and the 49ers brass met on Monday at Aiyuk's request. This was a good meeting. Both sides said things that needed to be said, and they're going to keep working. It's important to note here, there's never been a trade request from Brandon Aiyuk. That has not changed. The 49ers stance hasn't changed either. Despite getting trade calls on Aiyuk going back to draft week, they're moving forward, and they want Aiyuk to be part of the team for 2024. So, very interesting. I think it's a positive if you're hoping that Brandon Aiyuk's going to be on the team. I kind of wonder what the two sides wanted to get off their chest. Maybe Kyle admitted that, they should have used, Aiyuk a little bit more. Maybe Kyle is assuring Aiyuk that if he comes back to the Niners that, his usage will go up. He only had 3 catches in the Super Bowl. He only had 3 catches against the Lions in the NFC title game. He only had 3 catches against Green Bay. So maybe Kyle kind of verbalized that, Aiyuk's going to be more a featured part of the offense going forward. As far as what Brandon needs to say, maybe, there's been so much with him and Jaden Daniels. Maybe he needs to tell the 49ers that, this is where he wants to be, and sometimes the message can get lost in translation. You're saying a lot of things. You're trying to leverage through the media, through social media. And maybe, he's coming across to them like, hey, man, I don't want to be here anymore. Or, hey, I don't want to play with Brock Purdy. I want to play with Jaden Daniels. So I'm not sure what Brandon needed to say to them. He's been a complete wide receiver. You want a receiver that blocks down the field? Brandon Aiyuk's your guy. You want to have a game where you're targeting another receiver or George Kittle a lot more than Aiyuk? Aiyuk plays nice. Brandon Aiyuk's your guy. And then if you want somebody who's going to go over the middle and make big plays, Brandon Aiyuk's your guy. If you want a guy who's going to block in the run game and do all the little things that many, many, many wide receivers will never even consider doing, Brandon Aiyuk's your guy. So I'm not sure what, these two sides had to say to each other. Maybe Aiyuk said, hey, look, I know it may look like I want to be a Commander, and there's, I tweeted out some stuff about the Steelers earlier this offseason, but I want to be a Niner. I went to Sierra College. I'm from Rockland. I'm a NorCal guy. You were the team that drafted me. I was drafted and developed here. This guy's gone through many, many different, episodes of his Niner career since he was drafted at Arizona State. Was he in the doghouse? Was he not? Has he emerged from the doghouse? He's a pro's pro, though, man. This guy will block downfield with a vengeance. I mean, you saw it in week 1 in Pittsburgh, man. He got down the field and blocked, and him and Ray McLeod got down the field and blocked in front of McCaffrey. And, you would say in an ideal world, every wide receiver does it. But in reality, every wide receiver doesn't do that. So it's really interesting that he does all the little things. And the Niners are a run-dominant offense, but if you're going to have a wide receiver, in a run dominant offense, you want Brandon Aiyuk because he blocks in the run game and he blocks with a vengeance and he does it willingly. And you don't have to beg him to do it. I mean, the Steelers literally last year had to beg George Pickens to block down the field. And it's not his game and it's not what he does. And he didn't necessarily take to it. Aiyuk blocks willingly and physically and almost like he wants his blocking to define him. So, I'm glad that the two sides had a meeting. If you said, what do I think is going to come of this? I think there's going to be a compromise. I think they're in the 11th hour of these conversations and negotiations, and I think there's going to be a compromise. And I think, if the Niners are sitting at, let's say, between 26 and 28, and let's say Aiyuk wants to be paid between 29 and 32, I think there's a compromise there. If I had to guess, I would say 29 million is the hot spot. He gets 29 million a year and, some significant amount of money guaranteed, probably north of 75 million. That would be my guess. You said, is this going to get done? I say, yeah, it gets done. I think Aiyuk is the receiver that is going to have the longest career, much longer than Debo. I think he's a more complete wide receiver, and I think he's going to age very, very well. So I think in a lot of ways, the 49ers have the exact receiver that they want in Brandon Aiyuk. I mean, if you have a team that runs the ball as often as the Niners do, you got to have some receivers who block. And you heard it from Bill Belichick when he was talking about Ricky Pearsall on draft day. He's like, if you don't block in Kyle Shanahan's offense, you don't see the field. No block, no playing time. No block, no rock. You're not getting the ball if you don't block. So that's the Niners culture. So did they draft Pearsall? Yeah. But I think this year, if I'm the Niners, I want Aiyuk, Debo, JJ, Pearsall, Cowing, and whoever the sixth receiver is. And I think I want to keep 6. Maybe it's Conley for special teams. Maybe it's Ronnie Bell to develop them. Maybe Danny Gray comes of age and he becomes that 6 wide receiver. But you've got your wide receiver group set. And maybe Pearsall could take Aiyuk's role, but he's not ready to take it right now. And rookie receivers rarely produce. And you're going to take a rookie receiver and just ask him to replace your number 1 wide receiver? Probably not a good idea. Probably not the game plan. So I think the plan this year is, it doesn't matter if he's there at the beginning of camp, as long as he's there within a couple of weeks of the start of camp. I think 29 million is going to be the sweet spot. I would predict that it'll be 29 million AAV, and I'll say somewhere between 75 and 80 million guaranteed. And Aiyuk is there and a 49er long-term. Now, what does that mean for Debo? I don't know. You heard Albert Breer report yesterday that Debo still could be traded later on this year. So maybe signing Aiyuk means that Debo will be traded. Maybe there'll be a wide receiver injury. Maybe Debo gets off to a hot start. Maybe somebody offers you a number 1 pick for Debo. In that case, the Niners probably pull the trigger on that trade. So, but I think this report of them had a meeting and they aired things out a little bit and they got some things off their chest. I think it's only positive. And I think they do get a deal done probably in late July, maybe in early August. 29 million AAV, 75 to 80 million guaranteed, and Aiyuk's a Niner going forward. And the fact that he says he doesn't want to be traded, maybe sometimes in a situation like this two sides need to look each other in the eye, and Brandon needs to say to the Niners, I don't want to go anywhere. And the Niners need to say to him without any ambiguity, we don't want to send you anywhere. And maybe sometimes just saying that face to face is a very, very positive thing. All right. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles for sponsoring this video. Thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.